Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right?
Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome to Arrowhead Invitational Week for those who celebrate. This is Wacky Wednesday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, joined by Sterling Holmes. Producer Richard will keep this ship afloat. I'm a little sick, but I'm feeling hot. I'm a little cold, but I'm feeling hot.
That's the fever. That's the fever.
I don't think it's the fever. I took the money line on the Commanders this weekend. Remember how I was talking up Jayden Daniels last week, and everyone thought I was a lunatic, calling him the best quarterback in the NFC. So I'm not bringing that up just to victory lap. I'm bringing that up because last year, other than the Chiefs, I felt like I was totally off in the playoffs. This year, I feel like I haven't missed a game. I felt like Buffalo, my gut was telling me Buffalo was going to win. I also had them this weekend, and I'm feeling good about the Chiefs. So I think that's a good omen. I mean, maybe I'm just being the ultimate homer here and trying to say one thing leads to another. But my gut is telling me they're going to do it once more. How is your gut feeling?
Little indigestion, probably just a little bit, but no, it's fine, man. I'm nervous about this game. Full transparency. I think the Bills were the worst matchup for Kansas City. I think the Bills know how to win in the playoffs. They don't know how to beat Kansas City, but they know how to win in the playoffs. They've won 5 straight seasons with a playoff win. The Buffalo Bills have. They've not had a turnover since week 11. Buffalo Bills are playing a lot different than the old Buffalo Bills. I think everyone expects to see this chaos and this disaster and offensively and what's going to happen. They've been playing some pretty high-level, stable football. It's why I went with the Bills over the Ravens. The Ravens' variance was too much for me, which you saw in that game. The Bills, I think, are learning. They learned how to play playoff football, but will it matter against Kansas City?
That 1.5 spread with Buffalo being underdogs in their own stadium, I still, in a snow game, it blows my mind. It blows my mind, and you have to give it to Josh. We're going to dig more into this, but Josh has learned the same lessons that Patrick Mahomes has. He's learned to not go to hero ball too much. He's learned to play within himself, trust his coaching staff, trust the offense, and not make these mistakes that Lamar Jackson, frankly, I mean, Lamar Jackson played unreal. You have a lot of people saying he played better than Josh Allen. Well, if you subtract the 2 turnovers, maybe, but those are game-altering mistakes. And also, those are the kind of mistakes that allow the other team to dictate the terms of the game. Lamar making those mistakes kind of took Derrick Henry out of the game as a little bit of a factor. So I think you see the Bills, they've kind of emulated the Chiefs. They're winning ugly. They're being patient. They're not shooting themselves in the foot. They're usually
you say shooting or shitting? Really, it's like they're not shitting themselves in the foot. And I'm like, whoa.
I said I'm a little stuffed up. I said shooting, but shitting works as well. You don't want to shit yourself in the foot. It's kind of hard to do. I guess if you're down in a 3-point stance, maybe not so much, but we will leave that there. Great show for you guys today. We'll examine the Bills and Chiefs meeting up in the playoffs for the 4th time of the Mahomes era. But before we get to all that, there's a little bit of business we have to take care of.
Yeah, a couple things here. One from Anonymous Mango. Sterling, I must know, are you a fellow Drumeo consumer? Yes. Yeah, Drumeo's absolutely badass. Raymond says, for anyone who is not on Underdog, it's a lot of fun. Guess you're right. Raymond, we're getting ready to hit that underdog, baby. And everyone be nice to Ian. Ian McMillan here in the chat did Stacking the Box with him just a little bit ago. And thank you for seeing the light. Finally saw the light, Ian. We'll have some fun now in New Orleans together. And you know what else is fun? Yeah, don't just take Raymond's word for it. Take mine as well. And also, make sure you download Underdog. Yeah, baby. Download Underdog and use code Arrowhead Addict to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, code Arrowhead Addict to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Higher or lower, you make the call right there on Underdog. I love it for NBA as well. Very close to not being here today, boys. I was one Russell Westbrook assist away from cashing out over $1,000 right there on Underdog. But guess what? It was okay because instead of doing all three, I picked just got to get 2 out of 3. And what happened? I still got paid about $75. Yeah, I know it's a lot lower, but guess what? That's still making money. Underdog is such a fun spot for NFL, NBA, you name it, higher or lowers. It really is simple. You can also bet on triple doubles. You can throw something down on double doubles. You'll have a lot of fun right there in Underdog. So make sure you check out Underdog and use code Arrowhead Addict to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado. For some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and President State where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncbgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8 HOPE and wire text HOPE and Y 467-369.
Smoking, man. I love Underdog. I've been doing those. I think it's the higher and lower is called Champions, where you kind of put it all together. I've just been riding that Jay and Daniels, Terry McLaurin train, and it has been going great. I also had Travis Kelce last week. They had Travis Kelce's over under. What was it, like 60 yards? I'm like, he's had 70 yards in every game since Groundhog Day 2020 or something like that. I think it's like 14 games straight now. So of course you were going to take that. A lot of fun. You know what else we're taking is crazy pills here. Let's kick things off with our first segment.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
So in the age of hot takes and instant narratives, we sometimes miss obvious things. And sometimes we just lose our mind. This segment aims to point out those instances. You guys know what I'm going to talk about. It's people believing the NFL is rigged for the Chiefs. Don't want to talk about refs anymore this postseason. So just time to get it off of our chest right now. Let's shoot a hole through this crackpot theory. Let's do it. Just rattling this off. The Chiefs have the 27th biggest TV market. So it makes no sense to rig things. You know, if you're going to have this Machiavellian plot to rig the entire huge multi-billion-dollar apparatus for one team, why would you pick the Chiefs and not the New York Jets, who have missed the playoffs for 14 consecutive seasons? Actually, right now, both New York teams suck. Both New York teams suck. The LA teams are good, but they don't have fan bases anyway, so that doesn't really matter. The New York teams are horrific. That would never happen. And how has no journalist uncovered this vast conspiracy in the social media age? We're in an age where if someone does something dumb on social media and they're anonymous, everybody knows who they are an hour later. So I have a hard time believing that this vast conspiracy wouldn't get exposed. 31 other owners. That's probably the biggest thing we have to think about here. 31 other owners are signing off for this. And if they're not signing off for this, they're not rebelling against it and making it unrigged, right? Including Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones hasn't been to a Super Bowl in 30 years, guys. America's team. You think he's fine with that? You think he's fine with the star being shut out of the big game of Super Bowl Sunday? I don't think so. Then you have sportsbook partners like Caesars, DraftKings, FanDuel. You think they're cool with their multi-billion-dollar businesses being risked on a fixed outcome? I don't think so. You have Netflix, Google, Amazon, CBS, NBC, Fox, the list goes on and on. This is such a big business. You have all these partners. You think they're fine with this being fixed? I just can't believe it. And then Congress. Sterling, you might be too young for this, but Congress investigated the baseball steroid scandal. They don't mess around when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't know, man. None of it makes a lick of sense to me. And here's what does make sense. The Chiefs win the most games. The Chiefs play in the most games. The Chiefs are on prime time the most. The Chiefs have the most experience and are clutch finishers. They know how to win. They know how to win better than anybody. They might know how to win better than anybody in the history of the game. Now, on to NFL officiating. Guys, it's just bad all the way around. It's not bad just when the Chiefs play. It is bad every single game. We saw this with Buffalo. Buffalo got a couple calls. We saw a phantom face mask in the Detroit Lions game that I think if Detroit won, no one would be harping on that 4 or 5 days later like they are with the Chiefs. It just seems like everyone hates the Chiefs. But I don't think that's really the fact. I think that is a byproduct of social media skewing negative. That's what we see. I think that's what's encouraged. And if you think about this from a football media perspective, who are they going to cater to? Are they going to cater to one fan base and try to be completely honest and tell people what they don't want to hear? Or are they going to serve 31 disgruntled fan bases who are frankly envious of the Chiefs' success? I don't know. For them, it's just good business. I've ranted on this long enough, Sterling. I could go probably another 40 minutes. I just want to hear your take on this so we can just put it to bed and get to the actual X's and O's.
Yeah, I'll be quick because I don't really care. 31-1. I've said that a long time. My degree is in marketing. Like you're going to cater to the 31 and not the 1. That's just simple common sense. That's why the national media for the majority of the time will always cater to the 31 versus the 1. That's market share. You're going to do that. Do I think that bad calls happen? Yeah. Do I think the Chiefs occasionally get a call go their way? Yes. Like I think nearly every other team does at some point. It's just the nature of the business. Do I think at times Patrick might get a favorable call? Yes, just how Tom Brady did, just how Joe Burrow does, just how Josh Allen does, what superstar quarterbacks do. Okay? This is just the nature of the game. I think, yeah, Ronson Trey, that's pretty funny too. Yeah, if the Swifties are the only reason why, that viewership's so high for Kansas City, then why did they win in 2019? It's just ridiculous. There is data. There is actual numbers that backs this up versus just, well, my eye test or I saw this anecdotal stuff. When you actually get into the numbers, it's been proven time and time again, the Chiefs aren't the team that gets the most favorable calls, even in the fourth quarter. But don't let, facts ruin your narrative because your team keeps losing. Now, I am done with this because it does not matter. Whatever your thoughts are, whatever you care about, the Chiefs are going to the AFC Championship game for the 7th straight time. Doesn't matter. Facts do not care about your feelings.
They do not. And even if you lay this out with all the logic, with all the facts, they'll just keep moving the goalposts because they can't cope. They can't cope. It's just easier to say, it's rigged. It's rigged. Then give the Chiefs their flowers. I think that's what kind of gets me mad, what kind of irks me a little bit. Saturday, I was actually kind of pissed, and it's rare that I get emotional or I get suckered into that. But it's just annoying to see maybe the greatest run in NFL history not get its flowers. That's all you have to do. I agree with you on the point of Tom Brady. I grew up watching Michael Jordan, and I was a Reggie Miller fan. You know this. I was an Indiana Pacers fan, and I got frustrated that Michael Jordan got more calls than anybody else. But deep down, I knew that he was Michael Jordan, and he had earned those calls. He had earned those calls. He had earned home court advantage. I think psychologically, everybody knows that the most important player in the league, the best player in the league, the face of the league is Patrick Mahomes. You can't men in black yourself and forget that fact before you officiate a game. And one last point about the Houston Texans in particular. Azeez Al-Shahir and the rest of that team have a rep for being dirty. And it had only been 4 or 5 weeks, I don't know, somewhere in that range, since he tried to decapitate Trevor Lawrence. Do you think their reputation maybe played some small part in the officiating when they see Patrick Mahomes slide and 2 Texans defenders going at his head. I think that probably played into the psychology of it as well.
Yeah, always does. If you're a Missouri Tigers basketball fan, if you remember Jeremiah Tillman, once you get that knock against you, whether you Rasheed Wallace in the NBA, Draymond Green to an extent as well, whether it's a legitimate one or not, if it's borderline, the borderline call is now going to go against you. Right? Rasheed Wallace got teed up for looking at a ref one time. Was it the right call? No, but reputation is always going to play a factor.
You're right. I guess the closing note here is opposing fans, if you're so sure the NFL is rigged, bet the house on it, baby. Bet your mortgage. Let's go. Let's go. I mean, if you're that certain, why not put your money where your tinfoil hat is, right? All right. We got that off our chest. No more ref talk, hopefully for the duration of the NFL playoffs. I mean, I would love to never talk about the refs again. I don't think that's realistic with the way people have meltdowns about the Chiefs. But for now, we're putting that aside and we're moving on to one of our favorite segments, a little game we call the Kansas City stock market.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Fugazi, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
Tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested.
All right, let's get into it. The Chiefs missed both Charles Omenihu and Jalen Watson in the last matchup. Getting them back and healthy will decide this game. Pump or dump?
I don't know. Yeah, pump. I mean, yes, this is massive. I don't need to think about this. Yes, Charles Omenihu has been outstanding since he's come back from injury. Not only just him personally, but what he does for the rest of the defensive line. You're seeing Turk Wharton, fewer snaps, more efficient snaps. There's why I had Turk Wharton getting a sack this previous game against Houston. He got one. Charles Omenihu helps just the rotation in general, fewer snaps for Mike Dana. It allows him to kick inside on obvious pass downs as well. But yes, Charles Omenihu is such a valuable piece. And then Jalen Watson was a surprise in how much he played. 40 snaps for Jalen Watson. I'd expect that to be even higher. Najee Johnson did nothing to calm, I don't think, any Chiefs fans' nerves against Houston, especially with the lack of wide receivers behind Nico Collins. While the Bills don't have a Nico Collins, they have a plethora of wide receiver twos: Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakur. Mac Hollins has had a nice year as well, with a lot of solid tight ends with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. But I think you'll see, especially if Khalil Shakur starts traveling to the slot, I would like to see Trent McDuffie actually follow Khalil, because I do think it's a massive advantage if Shakur is going up against Shamari Connor. I don't think Connor is quick enough to keep up with him. And I think we saw that a little bit in the previous matchup with Bills Chiefs. So we'll see. And maybe that means an uptick for Christian Roland Wallace. That remains to be seen. But I do think Jalen Watson and Charles Omenihu will make a big difference in why the Chiefs win this one.
You can make an argument that this is the healthiest the Chiefs defense has been all year, that this is probably the best they're going to look all year, because you really haven't had a healthy Charles Omenihu and a healthy Jalen Watson together in this defense until presumably now. I think Jalen Watson, like you said, is ahead of schedule. I was very excited to see him play that amount of snaps. And I'd only expect his snap count to go up from here. And I'm in agreement with the Trent McDuffie point. Khalil Shakir probably scares me the most out of that receiving core. Can Keon Coleman or Amari Cooper or one of those other guys come up with a big play? Because you know, that howitzer of an arm that Josh has puts it on the money, and they beat one of our guys deep. Sure. But I think Shakir and James Cook are the main weapons that this offense sort of runs through. And Charles Omenihu is just looking like a beast out there. He had the strip sack for the 4th playoffs in a row, which is crazy. There was that play where I think it was Shaq Mason was just like hugging him and holding on to him, you know, like a long lost lover, man. He was just clenching onto him. And of course the ref throws the flag, and he's sitting over there losing his mind. Like, dude, this was the most obvious hold I've ever seen in my life. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was the most hold that has ever been a hold, I thought. Next one, DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown combined for 0 receptions last week. They will continue to struggle. Pump or dump?
This is a dump, but it's a mini dump. I'm a little bit concerned that they don't have any momentum coming into a matchup that I think they're really going to be needed in. Now, I recognize with Derek Stingley and Lassiter, the Texans' corners are absurdly good, right? Not only are they absurdly good, but the defensive ends, the edges for the Texans are absurd as well. They've got a couple pairings that are just out of this world, and that kind of dictated that the Chiefs, kind of pick on the middle of the field there, where the Texans' defense is weak, safety, linebacker, that kind of thing. So I think some of it was schematic, and Andy Reid just saying, "Hey, we're going to take what they give us." But them getting donutted, I'm a little less worried about Hollywood Brown, because Hollywood Brown was this close to having that big catch, that long bomb. And I'm still not sure he didn't catch that. What I like most about that catch is the next play after Hollywood Brown proves that he can stretch the field and you have to be aware of him deep. Travis Kelce gets open, wide open underneath, and rambles for 49 yards on Yak. So I think that's Hollywood Brown's job. We saw him do it. We saw him impact the game, even without a catch. DeAndre Hopkins, that was kind of a pseudo revenge game against the Texans. For him to get completely blanked was a little bit of a surprise. I'm not panicking, but you just would like to see some momentum, some continuity. We're going to need these guys on Sunday to step up and make some plays.
By the way, huge shout out to Raymond Chandler gifting 10 memberships. That's awesome. Thank you, Raymond. You're the man, dude. Always appreciate you, Raymond. Always fun talking with you as well. So glad you're just helping grow this thing. Appreciate you. I'm dumping this one. I thought it was all game plan related, why you didn't see Hollywood and Hopkins a lot in that game against Houston. I really don't think there's much to it outside of the fact that Travis Kelce was being left wide open in the middle of the field. And why would you not go to Travis Kelce, who was not being guarded when Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr. are very good? You don't get style points for throwing to the wide receivers versus a tight end. Throw to the obvious open player. The obvious open player was Travis Kelce all game long. So for me, that was a schematic advantage the Chiefs had, less so a went in with, oh no, we're not, I should be worried about D-Hop and Hollywood and what's going on here. No, they clearly had plays drawn up for Xavier, right? That was obvious because he still had 5 receptions in this game. But when you look at this Buffalo game, I think Matt Milano is a really good linebacker. I don't think they're going to have the same game plan defensively that Houston did. They don't have the same players, obviously. I think you will see more of a Hollywood Brown and maybe DeAndre Hopkins, but Hollywood especially, who plays a lot of man coverage. The Buffalo Bills, who's good beating man? Hollywood Brown. So for me, I think Hollywood Brown is the guy I would tab. And when I say a big game, I'm not saying 100 yards and a touchdown, but let's maybe say 5 for 60, right? 5 for 60. I think Hollywood probably goes for that in this one. So, yeah, I'm dumping. I'm not worried about Hollywood or D-Hop. I think that was game plan related. Less so, I'm worried about those two guys.
I'm in agreement with you that Matt Milano is a good player. When Bills fans call him the Kelce stopper or whatever, I just am like, remember that game-winning fade he caught over Matt Milano? I mean, in the playoffs.
Oh, yes, but I don't think the game plan will be going and trying to test Bernard and who again is questionable with injury, but I think he's going to play. Let's be real. Concussions in the playoffs seemingly are never as bad as they are in the regular season. Weird how they somehow pass concussion protocol a lot easier in the playoffs. Huh. Shocking. But yeah, I think again, it's a lot different. They will attack the outside more than the inside against Buffalo.
And Taron Johnson, the all-pro slot corner, is worth mentioning here.
Yeah.
I just think they're weaker on the perimeter. Next up, the Chiefs defense has looked more susceptible to rushing lately. James Cook will have a monster day. Pump or dump?
And by the way, I see Bills play zone 72% of the time. They do, but not against Kansas City. They didn't last time around. It was almost predominantly man. That was the big change. That was the difference. And then you said defense acceptable to running. James Cook will have a monster day. Slight dump. I think less so on the ground. I think it's Josh Allen's legs you have to be worried for more than anything else. And James Cook catching the ball out of the backfield, right? I think that might be the one, too. I'm less worried about James Cook on the ground and more so, again, Allen's legs and Cook through the air. That's where I have my question. So for this particular question, I will dump, but I still think James Cook will have a decent-sized day.
It's a dump for me as well. In the first contest, their running backs had 14 carries for 49 yards. So they just weren't this huge factor. And like you pointed out, it was the legs of Josh Allen once again that were so backbreaking for the Chiefs. And we've seen that historically. The Chiefs just have a lot of problems wrangling him. The long touchdown the last time they played, the infamous hurdle. It just feels like really what you have to do with Josh Allen, and we can talk more about this, is get him into 3rd and long. I think that's the real hope. And you saw some of that with the Ravens in the second half when the Bills kind of came out a little too conservative and had, I think, maybe a couple of 3 and outs there because when you put Josh Allen in 3rd and long, that's where you want to live. Not that he can't go out and get a bucket and make something happen. He certainly can. But if it's 3rd and 3, you're dead. You're dead. It's like trying to tackle a rhino. He's just going to pick that up every time. And they're considering that 4-down territory anyways. He's who I'm worried about. James Cook is a fine player, probably a top 10, 12-ish back, that ballpark. And Ray Davis is no slouch either. And then you have Ty Johnson, who is probably the best receiver of the bunch and has really come on as a receiver as the season trucked along. But yeah, I'm dumping. I don't think he's going to go for like 130 and 2 tutties or anything. And I think the Chiefs need to hold those running backs probably under, 75 yards. Is that a realistic kind of measuring stick there?
That's tough.
How about the rushing altogether, holding it under 100 yards or so?
I was going to say 125 for if you count Josh Allen and Ray Davis and James Cook. If you hold them under 125, I really like the Chiefs' chances, right? James Cook specifically under 75, right? Maybe that's the number I'm looking for, just him specifically. That's probably where I'm at. Again, I think this is a really good team with a really good offensive line and a great game plan. I have so much respect for the Buffalo Bills. I think they're a damn good team.
They are a damn good team.
All right. Kareem Hunt's vision, patience, and contact balance make him the Chiefs' top running back option, and that should give him the bulk of the carries. Pump or dump?
Pumping so hard, I'm about to injure myself. This is just the most obvious thing. Isaiah Pacheco just hasn't been himself. I think that's fair to say. His vision's always been a little bit of a problem, but right now he's just running into the backs of his offensive linemen. He just has been, frankly, bad. He's been bad. And Kareem Hunt does not have a lot of juice, but my God, does that man have, does he have a feel for the game? That clip that's going around of a kind of what looked like a hole maybe opening up in the middle and him running outside and kind of slipping in between 2 blockers and popping off a big game. That kind of patience and vision was Priest Holmesian. And I'm not saying he's Priest Holmes because he doesn't have the juice, but he does from the neck up. He does have a lot of Priest-like traits. I think they have to go with Kareem Hunt, particularly on these short yardage situations, short yardage, high leverage. You need to pick up a 4th and 1. There's just no way at this point I'm trusting Isaiah Pacheco over Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. And Pacheco got the start right for that game, but he clearly wasn't showing the juice that they wanted to see. I think it's more injury, and hopefully this is just I hope it's not a lasting injury that we've seen I don't want to say the last of Isaiah, but maybe the last of that burst from Pacheco. Because you're right, he's going to have to evolve, and maybe that's the off season working on his vision, because right now he's not picking up some of those yards. He's running into the back of a guy. He's not that one that Kareem Hunt, slither between Travis Kelce and Tooney. Pacheco's not finding that hole. He's running straight into that first one where the linebacker was waiting. Kareem Hunt's the guy you got to go with. I'm not saying 100% of the snaps, but 70-30, 65-35. Kareem Hunt's just the better back right now. And yes, he's not going to bust off a lot of 15, 20 yarders, but he's going to keep getting those 4 and 5 and those short yardage situations. I trust him to find that hole and go through. He does fall forward. I know he doesn't run as exciting as Pacheco, but I think he's a better runner than Pacheco right now. So yeah, I'm pumping hard for Kareem Hunt here.
My concern about Isaiah Pacheco going forward is he's had a lot of injuries, and I'm old enough to have watched Christian Okoye and Larry Johnson, these bruising running backs that kind of run into contact. Sometimes they don't last very long, and you just hope that he hasn't already worn down. Let's just hope he can kind of improve from a feel standpoint. Sometimes running backs do, sometimes they don't. We're playing the hits today, so our last segment is the return of Hot Take Kingdom, and this week's Hot Take Kingdom is the Chiefs must maintain a lead throughout this game to make Bills quarterback Josh Allen revert back into chaotic Josh. Welcome to the kingdom. It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute since we've done Hot Take Kingdom. For new listeners, Hot Take Kingdom is one of our oldest segments. I think it was first episode the two of us ever did together. So I throw out a hot take, build my case. Sterling either enters the kingdom and says, yeah, I agree with you, dude. Or he rejects the argument and says, Adam, you're crazy. I can't roll with you, man. So let's get into it. And chaotic Josh, for the uninitiated, Josh Allen, he was a little rough his first year or so in the league, but he pretty quickly started to get more accurate and become a better passer. But sometimes he just has the tendency to lose his mind and get the most bizarre turnovers you've ever seen. He just tries to do way too much. That side of him comes out. And right now, I kind of feel like, for those of you who are into Marvel, in Endgame, when Mark Ruffalo and Bruce Banner refused to be the Hulk, that's where Josh Allen is right now. He has got chaotic Josh on lockdown, but I think there might be a way to bring him out. So let's run through this. Josh and the Bills have gone through a metamorphosis. We talked about this earlier. It's the same transition that the Chiefs went through, right? They've learned to win in a methodical, ugly way, and their quarterback has learned not to play hero ball to a fault. That was kind of his Achilles heel for years and years and years. He's not really going there right now, and that's why I think people say the Bills have their best chance to beat Kansas City, because they're not gonna have these horrible self-inflicted wounds, and I think they're content playing bully ball, probably even more so than the Chiefs. They're really running the football. This is a completely different team than the finesse Buffalo Bills of the Stephon Diggs era. They're bringing out a 6th offensive lineman more than anybody and trying to shove it down your throat. They don't care about stats, same as Kansas City. And I think that makes them dangerous. Now, I think the Ravens fell into a big trap on Sunday night, and that's falling behind early. And that allowed Buffalo to take pressure off Josh. That allowed them to entrust their running game. That allowed them to win the turnover battle. So I think building up a lead will be key for the Chiefs. And that's especially true heading into the fourth quarter, because maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like Josh Allen wants this game as badly as any human being in the history of the earth has wanted a game. He needs this game to not just permanently be relegated to Clyde Drexler, to Michael Jordan. He doesn't want to be Peyton Manning. He wants to be Tom Brady, guys. I mean, who wouldn't? So I think another problem here is that Buffalo doesn't have a go-to target. Now, is Travis Kelce a little diminished from his previous forms? Yeah, probably. But as we saw last week, when he's needed, the Chiefs know that is the guy they can count on to help them go out and make big plays and win the game. Josh Allen doesn't really have that guy. So I think that's going to force him to be that guy himself, to put everything on his own shoulders. And if they trail late, you could see him pressing too much. Now, enter Steve Spagnuolo right as Josh Allen's kind of getting outside of himself and thinking, I'm 0-3 against Kansas City in the playoffs. I have to will this game into becoming a Bills victory. Gosh, I just think Spags is going to capitalize in that situation. Spags is better than anybody at holding those aces until the last possible second and then throwing them down on the table just at the perfect time. Whether it's an exotic blitz or a simulated pressure, he knows exactly when to dial and he knows exactly what to dial. So nobody exposes quarterback flaws like Steve Spagnuolo. Late in the game, I think a dumb turnover or a bonehead sack could be the difference. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a little bit of chaotic Josh coming back. Sterling, you've heard my case. Are you coming into the castle or are you staying outside the walls?
I'm staying outside the walls on this one.
All right.
This has kind of been my pushback almost all year, past couple, really. I think that Josh Allen and the Bills have learned. I think they've evolved. I think they've grown. And you mentioned it. I don't know how much chaotic Josh is left in there. He doesn't do it in the playoffs. The Bills have 0 turnovers since week 11. They're taking care of the football. They have a plus 13. I did all the research earlier, plus 13 turnover margin. And since week 11, they have forced 9 fumbles. So Kansas City, make sure you take care of the damn football. Nico Remigio, 2 hands. Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, you don't only have to worry about, but 2 hands. Travis Kelce, come on, 2 hands. Like, I know they know this, but against the Bills, this is the one team that is very opportunistic at punching the ball out. Okay, so that's one thing here. I just don't think that Josh Allen's going to be the reason. Let me put it this way. It was why I took the Bills over the Ravens, because I trusted Josh Allen. I didn't trust Lamar. Lamar's variance was too high. I said that going into the game. The variance of Lamar and the Ravens, they could probably reach the highest peak, but they can also be a team that reaches the lowest lows. I don't think that with the Bills. I really don't. I know Josh Allen had a game this year where he was, against Houston, 9 of 30. That was the outlier. I don't believe that to be the norm with Josh, especially at this point in the season. I think the Chiefs will have to play just good, solid football and not count on winning the turnover battle, which means you can't lose at their turnover battle. Patrick, don't throw that interception that you threw the first time around in the first quarter, that first drive. That can't happen. I'm expecting a very close game, very close game. I don't think you're going to see chaotic Josh. As much as Spags can do all these unique exotic blitzes, while you might confuse him a time or two, I think he's smart enough now to not throw the dumb ball, to try and play hero ball. He'll take the sack, take his medicine, and not throw that pick.
Okay, so you don't believe in chaotic Josh. Do you believe in pressing too much Josh? Like if they get behind and he's really trying to take matters into his own hands, he might be more prone to overthrow somebody or make some kind of mistake that isn't a turnover. He might just not be as clutch as Holmes down the stretch because Spags.
No. 13-second game. 13-second. That was not on Josh. Like, that's why
it was not on Josh.
But that's my whole point. Like, if there's any quarterback who I think the Chiefs should be worried about, especially in the playoffs, I know everyone's going to say Joe Burrow. I get that. It's Josh Allen. Josh Allen's played some pretty good football against the Chiefs in the playoffs. The issue is Patrick's just played better, or the defense has just played better. No, I don't think against Kansas City you're going to see this chaotic Josh. I don't think you're going to see it.
All right. Well, occasionally you do. You mentioned the Houston game. Last season, there was a Vikings game where they fumbled on the 1-yard line and ended up screwing that game up. And it was, kind of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. So it still can happen. I mean, we've seen even Patrick Mahomes.
But I wouldn't consider that chaotic Josh. Like, I know what you're talking about, but that wasn't – was that a situation where you're like, oh, that's all on Josh Allen? It was no, not really. Like, will another player maybe make a turnover for the Bills? Sure. If you told me that Keon Coleman gets the ball punched out of his hands, okay, it's a rookie, fine. But do I think Josh Allen's going to have that situation? No, I don't.
So the pressure cooker that Josh and his team are going to be in Sunday night, there just doesn't get more pressure than this. They haven't made a Super Bowl since the 90s, right? They've never won a Super Bowl. Josh Allen is always a bridesmaid. He's probably sick of it. And we saw that kind of pressure have a little bit of an effect on Lamar Jackson. I think there were a couple plays where he just tried to do a little bit too much. And you're saying that's the difference between the two guys.
Correct.
So if you're not coming in on Josh Allen getting disrupted by the stakes, the pressure, and the environment, how about the rest of his team? Because when I compare their roster to the Chiefs roster, there just isn't much championship pedigree. There just isn't. You look at the Chiefs, the clutch nucleus, and I'm going to throw Harrison Butker. Sometimes I forget to throw Harrison Butker in here, but it's Spags, Reed, Jones, Mahomes, and Kelce. You throw in Butker, and that might be the most clutch nucleus. I mean, that's like Chicago Bulls level clutch nucleus in the 90s. So do you think down the stretch, guys like Dalton Kincaid, guys like Greg Rousseau, those kind of players can step up as much as all these Chiefs players who have already been there? And even Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis, there is an experience gap between those guys and most of Buffalo's roster, even though they haven't been around that long.
Well, Chris Jones is the closer. That much we know. Chris Jones in big-time moments, he steps up.
He closed him out last year. He forced Deion Dawkins, their left tackle, into Josh Allen and made Josh Allen throw what would have been a touchdown to, I believe, Shakir, just a little bit off.
And I think my concern would be then if Joe Thuney is playing left tackle, Caliendo against Ed Oliver or Daquan Jones. You got to try and find a way to probably help out Caliendo there. I think you can. Easier to double and give help on the interior offensive line than at tackle. But I think it might come down to even Butker and Tyler Bass. Who do you trust more? You trust Butker, even with the injury and everything. I like seeing Butker go out, not a long field goal by any means, but you saw how much issues Kaime Fairbairn had. Zero issues for Harrison Butker. That was lovely to see. Tyler Bass, with missing wide right, sorry, Bills fans, he might overadjust and miss wide left this time around. Maybe get a new call. But again, I think those nuances, right? That's what it comes down to. I don't think Josh makes the big mistake, but will the Bills make a big mistake? That might be the difference.
And if you could have your pick of any defensive coordinator in the National Football League to go up against Josh Allen, who would you pick? Maybe you would consider Lou Anarumo and a few other guys, but I think you would definitely probably in the end settle on Steve Spagnuolo. And think about this, guys. He hasn't been game planning for the Buffalo Bills for a week. They had that long layoff, and I always had a hunch that it was going to be the Bills. It just seems like it always is. It seems like they are the Indianapolis Colts to our New England Patriots. So I can guarantee you guys, they've been thinking ahead about this game. And it seems like they weren't doing some things in the first matchup that they might do in this matchup. Let's go ahead and transition into our early score predictions. Sterling, how are you picking this game?
Yeah, I think I've been pretty consistent here. I think it's a close game. I thought the Bills were right there with all year long. I thought it was Chiefs, Bills, and then the Ravens. Right? I think Chiefs were 1, Bills were 2, and then the Ravens. I never understood the Ravens' love. I couldn't quite understand it personally. And I think we saw why. This was exactly the reason why I like the Bills over the Ravens. They're close. The issue is it's Peyton Manning going against Tom Brady. That's the issue. It's the 24-23 Kansas City. I think it's the slimmest of margins. I really do. 24-23 Kansas City. I've never had an issue with the Bills fan, I don't think. Bills fans have been very gracious to me. I don't have bad things to say about the Bills. I know folks have been talking about Deion Dawkins and that trash talk, I need to listen to the quote because I saw the quote and I see where you go, the former champions, the former Super Bowl champions. But he also went on in the same quote to give a lot of praise to Kansas City and the Chiefs. So I couldn't figure out if that was just him misspeaking or if he was trying to take a shot, because Deion Dawkins has, had a little bit of that in the past, but Josh Allen has said nothing but glowing things about Kansas City. I want a good game. I think we get a great game, and the Chiefs will come away victorious 24-23.
I forget who was doing the interview, but in the post game against the Ravens Sunday night, they gave Josh the opportunity to say something stupid and like take a shot at the Chiefs. He refused to take it. He showered them with praise actually and said, they're the team you're trying to be, and we have to beat them to become them. And I thought that was great. I have nothing but respect for him and that franchise. I think they're pretty class. I always see Bills Mafia online doing charitable things. I saw them this week doing something for Mark Andrews' juvenile diabetes charity. They raised, I don't know if it was $10,000 or something because Mark Andrews was getting death threats. So, and if it couldn't be us, I probably want it to be them, just because people wouldn't know it now. But at one point, we were a tortured franchise who are in our entire existence had never been to a Super Bowl. Now my dad didn't have that experience, but I did. I mean, I didn't think we'd ever go to a Super Bowl. So them, Vikings, whoever, teams that were kind of in that same predicament, I have a soft spot for. And I think the Bills have been as tortured as any fan base in the NFL. I mean, maybe not as much as the Browns. Okay. I'd probably put the Browns ahead of them because
they do it to themselves. Let's be real.
Yeah, they do it to themselves.
By the way, shout out Jay Ward really quickly. Sorry, Best.
No.
Remember for 32 months, Ring of Honor, Jay Ward, nearly 3 years, man. Love this. You've seen Arrowhead Addict and this podcast and everything grow. And I want to give you a huge shout out. That's cool. 32 months with us. Thank you, Jay Ward. Says, and James Palmer thinks our receivers can't get separation. Sorry, James. I'm with you, Jay. I think Hollywood and Xavier will thrive.
DeAndre Hopkins can't get much separation, but he doesn't need to, because he's got maybe the best hands I've ever seen. And his contested catch skills, route running, just his veteran savvy are all like 99 on Madden. So, and then you don't get any faster than Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy on a football field. Maybe Tyreek Hill. Outside of that, they're about as fast as humanly possible. I think this is the game that the Chiefs offense gets pushed over 30. I'm going Chiefs 31, Bills 27. We've seen this in some bigger spots in the past when the Chiefs really need to find that extra gear as an offense. They find it. I think sometimes the Chiefs play down to the level of their competition. This is an ongoing trend. So I wasn't really that alarmed with Houston kind of hanging in there, because I've seen the Carolina Panthers hang in there. This is just kind of how they win. But I think in this particular game, they know they're going to have to manufacture points. 20 points, 17 points, that's not going to beat the Buffalo Bills. You're going to have to score what? I think 24, that number you had, any less than 24, but the Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl. So I think this offense steps up. Little worried about the running game, but another note when it comes to the Bills in the regular season versus the Chiefs, and then that matchup in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes as a rusher is a completely different animal this time of year than he was in the regular season. I don't even think he had a rush the first time they played. And if you remember back to, I forget which game it was, it might have been the shootout in the divisional round. He came out on that first drive and he ran them all the way down the field. Mm-hmm. And he is going to throw caution into the wind in the playoffs in a way he just doesn't in the regular season. I think that's going to be one of the differences in this ball game. I'm sticking with the Chiefs. Why would anybody in their right mind bet against them until we actually see the Buffalo Bills knock them out of the playoffs?
Dog, I'm amped. I'm so amped for this game. Again, you like seeing the Chiefs play the best, and I think the Bills are the other best team in the AFC. I just cannot wait for this game. I love watching Patrick and Allen go at it in the playoffs both time. Patrick Allen, Mahomes and Allen go at it in the playoffs. So much fun to watch those two teams. Great games ensue, and the Chiefs have been the victor in all of them, at least the playoffs. I'm going to need a couple of KC beers and a little bit of bourbon to calm me down for this one.
I'm going to need more than that, probably. I don't know. I need some Valium or something. Let's move on to what's spinning. Sterling, what are you listening to?
Oh, man, you go first.
Okay, I'm going to go No Name, the new album by Jack White, the new-ish album by Jack White. I'm a huge White Stripes fan, and I like some of the stuff Jack White has done over the years as a solo artist, but I don't really think he's ever recaptured that magic. And this album just goes hard. It's just bluesy. It's pure rock. I think he's just really giving the fans what they want. He's like, I've been experimenting. I've been trying to just amuse myself for the past decade. The fans want me to go back to White Stripes, Jack White. And he just did it. He just did exactly what everyone wanted. And sometimes giving the fans what they want is the magic recipe. So I highly recommend No Name.
That's awesome. Love Jack White. I'll have to check that out.
You've seen him in concert? I saw him here in Huntsville about a couple years ago. And sometimes when you see, like, I saw Robert Plant, and he plays 2 Zeppelin songs. I saw Stevie Nicks. She played like 1 or 2 Fleetwood Mac songs, right? This dude, I mean, half of what he played was White Stripes, and he played the Raconteurs, and he played Dead Weather, and then he played a little bit of his own stuff, but he was giving the fans what they want, and you gotta appreciate a showman like that.
Yeah. For me, I don't know why. One of the more vocally impressive singers, in my opinion, singer from Disturbed. I really enjoy Disturbed, and I forgot I was listening to the first 2 albums, The Sickness, but also Believe, their second album. Yeah, he's just such an impressive vocalist, and I know at times it's hard to realize when you're listening to the album or the CD. Listen to some of him live, or if you have a chance to go see him in concert, ridiculous. I saw him. I've seen if you know me, I'm a big music guy, clearly. Love music. Been to a lot of concerts. I always go back and talk to my dad about this. One of the greatest concerts that I saw was Disturbed. And it blows my mind because I went into that with not super high expectations. You never know with that style. Was it David Damon, I believe, is the singer? I don't think he has the, what's it called anymore? He used to have these piercings on his jaw, snake bites or whatever you wanted to call them. Just Disturbed, man. Those first 2 albums specifically were really, really good. I think people forget how musically talented they were too, coming out of Chicago, really influential to that style of music. I know they kind of got thrown into new metal at some point or whatever you want to call it, but I really do like Disturbed, and I think they're very, very talented, and Damon is a incredible singer.
Sometimes with heavy metal, we just kind of think it's screaming, but when you have a guy like that or System of a Down, I think their voices can be underrated just because you get so pulled into how hard the music goes and how loud the music is. That is an underrated aspect for sure. So cool. I haven't listened to them a lot. Maybe check a little bit more of that out. That's all we have for you guys. It is closing time. If you dig Arrowhead Addict, here's how you can help our community grow. First off, you're already here on YouTube. Subscribe, please. That's how you can stay informed and you can get every single one of our videos. We're bringing 4 shows to you every week, plus pregame, halftime, postgame. We're doing it all. We've got shorts. We're going to keep you posted. The other thing you can do if you're an audio listener is go over to Spotify or Apple and leave a 5-star review. If you leave a question along with that review, we will answer it on the OG Hour. That's our Thursday show with Patrick Allen and Matt Verderam, or Patrick Allen and myself. It's going to be Patrick and me tomorrow. Very excited about that show. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the Bills game and a little bit about some movies like we usually do for the last 20 minutes or so. Be sure to check out the Mothership. Matt Connor and those guys are going to be cranking out content right until kickoff Sunday night. Thanks to the chat. We couldn't do it with you guys. You guys give us energy. You guys are loyal. You guys are selfless. You guys are generous. We bow to you guys. Join us live next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central. Hopefully, we will be looking forward to a Super Bowl for what? The fifth time in 7 years or whatever. I can't even calculate. It's so many Super Bowls. Just hope, pray, wish. But that's all we've got. Until then, go Chiefs.